be exhaustive, but we believe that it's always useful to have resources that the creative sector can use in its work. So before I go any further, I would like to invite Churchill to say a few words, and then from there we will be able to share some thoughts and then move on to the tool, and then we'll ask Andrew to move in to share some ideas related to accessing public legal information. So again, colleagues, feel welcome, and just again for general information, the meeting is being live streamed, so it's available online, so that other people who are not able to join can join online. So Churchill, welcome, my brother.
Thank you, Prof. Thanks for putting this together. And as you say, this is the third out of the 3 interventions we've been making on the role of creatives, and also, just how creatives are part of this whole access to information discourse. We've had 2 other sessions before, and part of what we're trying to do today is have a discussion on how can we create a toolkit that can be used by anyone who would like to explore the more formal side of access to information when it comes to requesting information from government and that kind of interaction, with records being kept by both public and private resources. So, looking at the people we have in the room today, a lot of the work that has been done by the room grantees always does a lot of references to archives that are stored in the different countries, both in physical locations and also in online and digital locations. And so part of what we're trying to say here today is that the creatives are already doing what we are discussing. So the issue is just, how do we add additional knowledge, or how do we also reflect on how that interface between creatives and the people who have this information is like? So if you look at the work done by partners like Duka, who are doing really good work on second-hand clothing and the whole discussion on textile industries in Uganda, there's a lot of references to archives there, and also both living and also static archives. And then also, if you look at the work being done by some of the people granted by Meta, who are also in the room, there's also a bit of references to archives there. But the particular discussion we want to have today is, what if you want to make content using some information that is not readily available? How do you go about requesting for that information from especially state resources, right? So all of the 3 countries in East Africa have a national archives and documentation services. I believe it's a parastatal in all of this, or a state agency in all of the 3 countries. And so there are procedures to how you get that information. So that's part of what we're going to discuss here today. The toolkit will also be shared with you, I think, in its draft format. And so we'll just be looking at how to improve it. And hopefully this can be of use. It can find utility within the sector. It will be a document that we will keep revising in the oncoming periods, next year, and even the periods beyond that. So the only way it becomes alive is if we discuss it, if we try using it, and that kind of thing. So also just to appreciate some of the other experts in the room from the Kenya Law Reform. I think it's the Kenya Law Review Commission, who are here to share with us their knowledge on how we can also access some of the archives that they produce and keep. So thank you, Prof. Back to you. And apologies to everyone for the delay. It's because of the technical issues that Prof is sharing we had with Zoom. We will see how to sort that out better in future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Churchill, for that. Also to recognize that the Kenya law actually was previously Kenya national law reporting, something like that. So I think that they kind of rebranded to Kenya Law. And Andrew is here, and he'll be sharing critical information. And part of their mandate really is to make sure that legal information is accessible to all citizens. And I think there is a similar institution in Uganda as well as Tanzania. I think we'll hear from Philip whether there is a similar institution in Uganda. At this point, I think the way I would like to move this is to ask the question, when you are doing your work, where do you get your information from? I think we basically start from there. And maybe I would like to invite Philip to share where he gets his information from, or if he needs information that can help him do his work in Uganda, where would he actually go? Philip, do you want to share some thoughts?
Thank you so much. As an organization at Policy, we do quite a lot of work, especially when it comes to research. And of course, some research involves literature review, and we need secondary data that we may not be able to access on our own. So majority of the times we use some of the open data platforms that we have in Uganda. There's quite several of those, of course, some of them from the side of government, but also those that are in the hands of the civil society and the public. But also, I would say we do a lot of reaching out to government offices, organizations like the National Information Technology Agency, that is NITA, reaching out to organizations like, so the very ministries, the ministries, departments, and agencies. And like I hinted on last time from my presentations, for those that were part of this conversation, of course, that hasn't been very successful. For us, what it has taught us is to build rapport with especially the public officers. That is the only way we can get information. Otherwise, it gets hard when you have to begin a new relationship every time you need data. It becomes a problem. So what it has taught us is to engage these public servants, especially in our work, so that they can get familiar with us. So when we have requests for information, we are not new faces, but rather familiar faces, and they know what we are doing.
I hear you completely. I think that one of the things that we are encouraging within civil society is to have strategic engagement with ministries, departments, and agencies. And part of that is identifying allies in those areas who can then provide information. Sometimes they would like to remain anonymous, even as they are helping you access that information. And I think that we should not demand too much for them to demand that they make their faces known, because sometimes they do that to preserve themselves, and it's an amazing strategy. Because then you can ensure continuity, especially if you're involved in transparency, accountability, and the fight against corruption, using the arts to do that. So, so the interpersonal relationship is really, really important. And I like the idea that you use, secondary data from, reputable institutions, where those are in government or in other, or even within civil society, because we have think tanks in the region that do very credible research that we can actually then use for our work. I would just request, Philip, that after this meeting, you can share with me some of the sources that you go to. You can send that to us on email, or just post on the chat, whatever. I think that the email might just be a little easier. You can share with Churchill, and then that can be forwarded to us so that we are able to incorporate some of the sources. We are also helping upcoming, researchers. People are likely to do more work around creativity and accountability, transparency, and documentation of the sector. So, Philip, you can help us with that. That would be great. Maybe I can step into Meta. Meta, where do you get your work? Where do you access your information from? I cannot see Meta. Nikisi, do you want to share a few thoughts? Where do you get yours from, Nikisi?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Professor Kimani. I think on our end, we were quite clear about the fact that we wanted to stay as under the radar as possible during our research process. And we're really playing like the long-term game on this. So I haven't yet accessed any information directly from institutions, except for one, the Cotton Development Organization, and they were really helpful actually, and really, really friendly. I agree with Philip. I think it's more about building rapport and allowing them or letting them know that they can trust you, that you'll hold the information well. And then other than that, I've been doing most of my research online, reading the theses of other people who have come in to study. But that's also kind of unfortunate because it's usually funded by a university or an institution from the global north. And is driven by very personal curiosities, not necessarily national interests or institutional interests.
Yes, I hear that. I hear that substantial. And one of the things we have been really encouraging is increasing the visibility of Africa-based researchers, activists, scholars, and so on, so that it does not appear as if it's only the global north that reflects about issues, because we have our own people who have very deep ideas about our societies, and I think that it's very important that we do that and build networks. In other words, what you are saying is that sometimes it's advisable to access information rather silently, almost in an invisible way, and sometimes through very personal, personal contacts. So keeping off the public space and staying much more in the private spaces and accessing that information. I think that's also an important thing to mention in the toolkit when we get to that. I'll take one more comment. Maybe do we ask
Can I just
John?
also feedback or respond to what you're saying, because I think it's important. I found that it was definitely wanting to stay silent or access from the sidelines, especially until we know what the product is actually going to be and what our own parameters of political engagement are going to be, which we weren't clear, which we were defining as we were making the creative process. And then also specific to Uganda, right now, our Communications Commission has been very, very busy for the last year or so, enacting all kinds of policies, instructions, pseudo laws, but in very illegal manners, actually. So we're also quite clear on the fact that if you are on the radar of certain people, not necessarily immediately, but if you get on people's radar, it just makes you more susceptible to these laws that they're passing without even a parliamentary glance or anything like that. And we don't want to get caught up in that.
I hear you completely. I mean, it's a strategic positioning. And I think that we have to be very conscious that when these things are done strategically, they are more durable than if we are just playing up to the public gallery with visibility and more and more visibility. Sometimes you're better off doing more work, especially when it is very sensitive work, doing it silently until the space is more accommodating. So thanks, Nikisi, for that. Maybe John Ribia, you can step in briefly, and then we'll transition. Oh, Dina, mkadi sana. John. I think that John is either muted or something. Can we get? I would like to hear one more comment from someone. Can I see a hand? Anyone want to make a comment? Okay, in that case, let me just transition rather quickly to. Oh, Philip, you want to step in?
Yes, I have a comment. It might not be related directly to what the question was on sources of information. And maybe this is something that you're going to address later on, but I just wanted to put it out there. For the sake of creatives, I know creatives, especially in Uganda, that produce critical content. Content that is speaking to corruption, content that's speaking to, social issues that affect communities that may be sometimes even mainstream media fears to speak about. Because of course, maybe there's recently there's been an issue of human trafficking in Uganda, labor exploitation to Saudi Arabia and things like this. Whereas there's a lot of things happening in communities, but they're not spoken about. So to get back to my point is there are creators that produce critical content, and these are people that I feel most of the time are excluded. I don't want to say that, or would be, if they reached out, for example, to a public office to ask for this information, maybe it wouldn't be given to them because they fear incriminating themselves, these public officers. So I would want also in the conversation for you to speak about how do creatives go about that? Do they use pseudo figures and other people, or things like those?
Absolutely. So thank you so much, Philip, for that very important question about how one navigates, how creatives navigate spaces, and whether they can, use their networks to access information that would otherwise not be accessible to them for some reason. And of course, we know historically that sometimes you can suppress your identity in different ways. So you generate content which could very well be problematic, because you are not interested in popularity and so on. You make that content available through some other identity, and that identity surfaces much later. I know, for instance, our former Chief Justice Willie Mutunga had a weekly column for many years in the Daily Nation, and he wrote under Pinto in reference to one of the earlier politicians in Kenya that was assassinated in the early 1960s. So people knew there was Pinto, but they never knew that that was Willie Mutunga. And he wrote that forever. And many of us read him. It's much more recently when he came out to say that that was actually him writing as Pinto. So the utilization of other identities is a common and regular strategy. We know that in the case of Kenya in the 1980s, the creative sector was operating underground, and they did lots of work. They wore different forms of identity. So I don't know how that helps answer some of your question, but maybe we'll also dig deeper into other strategies that one can actually use, not just to share information much more broadly for purposes of democratizing the nation and advancing inclusive, societies, but also, to try and preserve ourselves, because there is no need of being a martyr when you could actually do more work while you are still in town. So there is a lot of value in that regard. Of course, the other way is finding allies in the various institutions, and they are there normally, who kind of share the same ideals and philosophies as we have. It's just that they work within the agencies or ministries or departments, and I think that it is also important to reach out. And these things we do deliberately, consciously. You study people and you work with them until you have built a sufficient confidence to be able to ask, to pose the question. So I want to move now on to something else related to the toolkit itself. And I would like to share it. So that we can access it. So this is really a draft. It's really what I would call a zero draft. It's still very, very raw. It's in the very early stages, but I think that it's starting to form. So this is just a guide for us, and it's very specific to East Africans on how to access information from government and public institutions. So I'll spend just a few minutes moving through it very, very quickly to say that we have divided the toolkit into 3 sections. The first section is really the principle of access to information. So what does it actually mean? What does it entail? And so forth and so on within the various jurisdictions. But also to say that we do provide a global context. So a global context, a Pan-African context, as well as a local context. So the second section deals with the policy and legislative environment which we need to constantly invoke. Sometimes, if the environment is not very conducive locally, we can invoke, either Pan-African contexts in terms of policy or positions, or the global instruments to protect ourselves. But I just also want to say that it seems in my view that in many of our countries, our creatives do not engage with policy issues, and yet we must change policies and legislation to be able to be more effective in our work. So that we should be creating content, but we should also be interested in the policies that are being formulated, so that either we can accept them or we can reverse them or interrogate them or whatever. And the last section is really a list of some resources where creatives in East Africa can access information. And I think that I really would like to request that you give us as many sources as possible. And you can do that through Churchill, who will then forward that to us. So it can be in the form of links or mainly links, because we want people to go online to look for this information. So the toolkit starts with what is the right to access information. I don't need to define it. It's just that we are focused on this right to access information that's held on behalf of the public by public officers, whether in government or agencies or ministries. So we'll be discussing that in the toolkit. We will also discuss why creatives should care about this idea, and essentially arguing that creatives should care about the right to access information, because that right helps them gather the facts, data necessary to fulfill their goals, and it also helps them to know how the decisions that affect them are made. It enables creatives to acquire the information required to develop effective programs and strategies and so on. So we should care. We should not see this as external to our responsibility. It is integral to our work. We will also discuss in a small section on the interaction between access to information and human rights. And I don't think I need to develop that any further. It's just to highlight that will come out in the toolkit. The toolkit will also discuss issues related to proactive disclosure of information. The idea here is that public institutions should release information in anticipation of public needs and interests. They should not wait to be told to release that information. They are obligated to release that information on the basis of the right to access information. And that really it should be a principle within public institutions to continually make information available without waiting for the public to request for that information, and really to release that information without necessarily the public asking formally to be given that information. So proactive disclosure will be an important part of the toolkit. And we'll also have a section that deals with when to make the request. And of course, our position is that you need to, as much as possible, if you're asking, if you're going to be using that information, sometimes you could be pinned down in terms of where did you get that information. So it's always good to kind of cover your ground where necessary. And sometimes, of course, you can use informal ways, as Nikisi has mentioned, to get information, and I think Philip also. But you might also want to get it through the formal route, because then you can cite the sources and so on. Sometimes you can be denied that information, and so on. So the question of when, it's like when you think you really do need formal, information. And of course, we also be asking, responding to the question, how to make the request. And we'll be proposing that you better off making the request in writing, because then you leave traces of the request, and you can do that via email or hand deliver, and always save a copy of whatever request you make. Then, of course, where always it's an issue of the right agency. We must seek the information from the right agency. That means we do a little research to help us understand which agency carries that information. And so we do preliminary research through websites, navigating websites and knowing where to go and so forth. So should they know how you want to use that information? They should not know how you want to use that information. It's not their business. It's their business to give you the information that you need. So you don't have to explain how you will utilize that information. You just request for it. And of course, the usual thing is, I learned early on that make your request as immediately you open the page. So let it be known precisely what you want right away. So sometimes brevity, being brief, is really important. So clarity, specificity, and so on. So keeping it very, very simple and very direct. If you need to number the requests, number them. Do not leave room for ambiguity, because you know that it is difficult sometimes to access that information. So when you're ambiguous, they will use that against you. So, and avoid multiple requests in the same letter, so that your letter preferably should just address one issue. This information should be available free of charge, except where they say they would like you to fund for the photocopying of the information. But should really be there should not be a fee. So preferably ask that you be given that information electronically, so that you don't have to go through the photocopying process. Normally, it's good to give a couple of days, maybe 21 days or so, and maybe do a reminder afterwards, unless it's extremely urgent. So you just give about a week or two before sending a reminder or doing a follow-up. If you don't get the information you require, you should be able to appeal to get the information given to you. And we will be discussing a little more about the appeal process. So that kind of covers this first section of the toolkit, kind of providing the principle of access to information. And then the second section deals with the policy and legal and regulatory framework. I will really skim through this very, very fast, but just to say that it carries information related to the global mechanisms, such as the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, as an important policy framework, which we can invoke as much as whenever we need to invoke it. It also discusses the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Again, we are hoping that the toolkit can mention this as a framework that the creative sector can use when requesting for information. The African Charter on Human and People's Rights, again, is something that we can actually also invoke to defend our right to access information. The rights of the child, if the information is being sought on behalf of children, the rights for persons with disabilities to access information in formats that and technologies that cater for them. The Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination. Again, there are statements related to access to information there. The United Nations Convention Against Corruption, again, has information related to access to information, and these rights. So these are rights that these are documents we can invoke when we are making claims. The African Union Convention on Preventing and Combating Corruption, again, makes statements related to access to information in the fight against corruption. So these instruments guarantee access to information that's held by government agencies, and we are able to hold to account the different bodies that regulate creative sector by invoking those sources. Also able to suggest policy changes that are not aligned to those policies. The last section deals with the links. As I said, these links are not exhaustive, but they are just indicative. And as Philip mentioned, it's not just government and public agencies that hold information. Some of the information is held in civil society organizations, research bodies, and think tanks, and so on. Of course, some information is also held directly within our communities. So the links are not exhaustive, but they're just indicative, and I'll just do this in exactly 2 minutes. So some of the links would include the Human Rights Watch, which I think all of you are aware of, Taweza Initiative East Africa, which does interesting research. And just to mention that we are not Taweza Initiative East Africa, although we work together and we are good buddies since the inception of Taweza Initiative East Africa by our friends. The Islamic Women's Initiative for Justice, Law and Peace in Uganda, again, has interesting information that you can access. Human Rights Network for Journalists, Uganda, also has interesting information which you can access. Katiba Institute doing very, very interesting work, very, very resourceful in terms of public interest litigation, a very interesting source of information. The African Center for Trade and Development, interesting space on matters of climate change action, policy and development issues. Of torture victims, again, an important space in Uganda here. In the case of Kenya, of course, there is IMLU, which does interesting work. The African Leadership Institute, an important space. African Youth Initiative Network, Akina Mama wa Africa, an important space. I recall that they have been around for some time, doing very important work. Alliance for Finance Monitoring. One of the challenges that we have in East Africa relates to debts and the use of finance by the state. And I think that this type of work by civil society activists advocating for transparency is important for us. And of course, in the case of Kenya, there is the Institute for Economic Affairs that does very interesting stuff. Amuria, again in eastern Uganda, on issues of conflict, interesting. Anti-Corruption Coalition, Center for Governance and Economic Development, International Center for Transitional Justice, Kabarole Research and Resource Center, and there are many other institutions such as the Kenya Copyright Board, the Kenya Film Commission, Kenya Film Classification Board, National Commission for Administrative Justice, National Gender and Equality Commission, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics. Uganda, there are very many, and Philip and Nikisi will be sharing some more. The Media Council of Tanzania, Legal Human Rights Center, and again, we'll be getting more support from our colleagues in Tanzania in populating the sources. I think that that kind of covers the three sections. And then, of course, there is an annex. The annex to the toolkit, for example, sample requests for information. So how do you request information, for example, or how do you request, how do you appeal if, for example, you are denied information? So we will. So as I said, this is like draft 0 of the toolkit, but it just gives you an idea of where we are going and what we are thinking. I would like to say that this toolkit will be developed very collaboratively. It's not, we don't have monopoly of knowledge. So we will be asking that you support the finalization and development of the toolkit. I can take maybe 1 or 2 reactions, and then we will transition. Can I see maybe 1 or 2 hands? Yes, Nicholas Sangore.
Yes, thank you, Professor Kimani. How are you? I joined a little bit late, but I'm a conk supporter of Article 35, access to information. This is really a wonderful step. I'm just concerned whether we'll be in a position to get the toolkit. That is my own, and then also just to catch up with the presentation, if at all you can also share the presentation so that I can just read through before I engage. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicholas. So as I said, this toolkit is collaborative. We will work on it together. It is like very, very early stages. So we will share for comments from all of you. In fact, we should be able to share within the next couple of hours so that you can provide the input. And then we will work, because it is targeted at the creative sector. So we want it to speak to you, to our needs. And so, Nicholas, be assured that that we'll share this with you, and we'll be able to. And of course, as Churchill mentioned, it is a toolkit that is alive, so it will be revised severally. It's never final. Any other hand comment? Okay. I can see Janet's mic is on, but I'm assuming that maybe it's on by mistake, unless she wants to mention. Yes, please do share your emails. Everybody, Nicholas, do share your email on the chat, but we do have it. We have it in our institution because we are partners on other projects. Okay. I would like now to just encourage you to share your comments with Churchill, and especially the areas around sources of information, which we can then add. We can then add to the toolkit so that it really responds to your needs. We will share again through Churchill the draft so that you can also provide input. I want to invite Andrew from Kenya Law to be able to share with us information on how to access public legal information. As I said, part of the mandate is for Kenya Law is to make legal information accessible to people. So it would be nice to get a sense of that. So Andrew, if you can step in, that would be great. And John, yeah.
Thank you, Prof. Today I'm having some cold, so I've actually requested my colleague John Ribia, who will be taking us through the presentation of access to public legal information. So kindly over to you, John.
Good afternoon, or still good morning. Good morning, guys. My name is John Ribia. I'm an assistant legal researcher at Kenya Law. I will be presenting using two machines. I'm using my phone so that you can get the video and the audio, but I'll use my laptop to share a screen. So if you don't mind, I want to share a screen from my laptop and share my desktop. Let's see if you're all together. Let me just share it.
Yes, we can see it.
You can see it? All right. So my name is John Ribia, and I'll be just taking you on how to conduct online legal research on our website, showing you the tools that we have that can help you access or just help you access legal information on our website. So before we begin, of course, it's important to know who we are. I had some confusion at the beginning of the meeting, at least from 10 o'clock, as to who we are. We get confused a lot for Kenya Law Reform Commission. We are the National Council for Law Reporting. We are a semi-autonomous state corporation. That means we access funding from the government, and we also sometimes generate funding by selling our products. We are established by our parent act, that is the National Council for Law Reporting Act, which gives us the mandate to report Kenyan jurisprudence. And we also publish the laws of Kenya, and we do this via legal notice number 29 of 2009. It gives us a mandate to revise, consolidate, and to publish the laws of Kenya. On to the next slide. So our mandate is, just as I said, is to monitor and report the development of Kenya's jurisprudence through publication of the Kenya Law reports, and also through publications of the cases from the Superior Courts of Record online. By Superior Court of Record, I mean the High Court, the Court of Appeal, and the Supreme Court. We are taking measures also to publish cases from tribunals. You'll see that I've written on our website. And in terms of special interest cases such as election petitions from magistrate courts, they will feature in our website because the nature of election petitions and how it's public interest, we would like to feature such information on the website. On the laws of Kenya side, we also revise, consolidate, and publish all the laws of Kenya. And we also publish other related publications and perform other functions as may be conferred by law. So an example of this is we publish a weekly newsletter. We publish a blog where we feature developments from the law from various countries. So for example, if you go to a law blog, you'll find cases from India, USA, Canada, just some features here and there that we publish. And we also invite people who have articles to have a journal in which we publish. We have a lot of products in which you can engage in. Now, let's go on to where we were. Now, this is what we look like in 2002. If you look at that place, the first thing that comes to my mind is even if I walk through the valley of the shadow of dusty files, I shall find my case. It was a hard time there, 2002. Finding legal information was very hard, especially finding information on jurisprudence. So for example, you're trying to find a file that maybe it was last had in 1998 and in 2002. You have to go through the archives, and this is what you would be faced with. This quagmire of just files upon files upon files that were very poorly arranged and were very dusty. And we tried to make an effort to change that. And this was our first website, our first rendition of the Kenya Law website. This was the beginning in 2005. Since then, we have improved greatly. This is what we have right now. So what I will do now is I will share my screen as I show you how to navigate the Kenya Law website and how to access legal information. I want to give you the tools, to empower you with the tools to access legal information from our website. So let me just share my Google Chrome page. Are we together there? Yes, we are. So our URL is www.kenyalaw.org. If you type in that URL, you will come to this page, or if you just search Kenya Law, you'll find us here. Remember again, Kenya Law is our brand name, and the full name is the National Council for Reporting. So on this website, as you can see from the bar at the top here, you can just follow my cursor. It gives you a list of places you can navigate. So I'm just going to give you a general understanding of the various features here. So here's the homepage. If you click on this, you get the homepage. What the homepage offers is a nice navigation bar here at the bottom that can offer you some news, some current news. For example, if you want to download the BBI draft bill, here it is. There was a recent assessment of court fees by the new Lady Chief Justice. Here it is, by the Honorable Lady Chief Justice. We have some various things that you can that are current, that are placed on this navigation, but it helps people navigate. Just for some news regarding Kenya law and the legal institutions in Kenya. Now, up to the scrolling bar over here, you will see a couple of features. So the first one is the laws of Kenya. I'll take you through the laws of Kenya and give you a full in-depth detail of that. Then we have the case search. This gives you access to all of our jurisprudence. You can see you can have the Supreme Court, all courts of appeal, all high courts. You have tribunals. They are listed there, and if you click on them, you'll get cases from the various tribunals. You have Parliament, where you can get a Hansard archive, and you can get some bill tracking features and some press releases. We have the cause lists. Cause list is a list of cases that each judicial officer has before them. We usually have a wiki clauses that we compile on Friday that is sent to us in the various courts, and we publish them. It usually helps advocates and persons with matters in court. You can go to the cause list. You can check on your when your matter will be heard, 11 o'clock before this justice, and it just helps people to be more organized when it comes to going to court. We have the Kenya Gazette archives. So we have the online archives, and we have some selected Gazette notices. They're all available over there. And we have our various publications. So we have our bench bulletin, and then we have commission reports, the Kenya Law Journal, the Constitutional Amendment History. We have a couple of things that we publish on that side. And lastly, our blog and election petitions. We have a whole tab on elections because you are nearing elections time, and it's a very hot topic right now. Election petitions, of course, I'm sure we'll have amendments of the law and cases on amendments of the law. You can find all of that there. So let's start with laws of Kenya. Let's give you a few brief of laws of Kenya. I've just clicked on laws of Kenya to show you how to navigate the website. So once you click on laws of Kenya, the first thing you get is a table of contents of all the laws of Kenya. So this is just the national legislation. This is the national legislation. You get a table of contents featuring all of the acts. Now, the reason you want to access your law from here is because if it's on this page, it's most likely current. If you just were to let's say we're looking for the Copyright Act. If you were to just open a new tab and search for the Copyright Act, you'll most likely find, or let's put it here, you'll most likely find sources in which that have not been updated. So you can see your result number 3. WIPO has a source, we have Kikobo has a source, but if you ask them when they last updated the PDF that is there, it's very hard for them to tell you when, yeah? So however, if you come here and access it, copyright, let's look for it, Copyright Act, COPY. There it is. If you click on that, you'll get the latest version of the act, and we have a team of people that try to amend it as fast as possible in a matter of, I think, 48 hours. They usually, in a turnaround time, they usually have amended anything that we have received from the national printers or from Parliament regarding amendments to the various acts. So once you click on a law, there's a whole toolbar here. There are various things that they may look challenging, but they're very simple, yeah. The first one is the title of the act, of course, Copyright Act, the act number. These are very simple. The blue lines that you see are the blue links. These are legal notices that have been used to amend the acts over the time, yeah? So anything that has been used to amend the act since 2001, they're all here. For example, Act number 12, 2001 amended it. This is the original. Then the first legal notice that amended, and so on and so forth. On the left-hand side, we have arrangement of sections. So for example, if I click on part 2, it will automatically take me to part 2 of the act automatically. And at the top here, we have subsidiary legislation. This is for all of the applications. This is mostly for lawyers. All of the applications, all of the things that you may need to use to access the full rights of the Copyright Act, you can use the subsidiary legislation. For example, if there are any procedures, anything that you're supposed to file in court, any letters, they're all there. So as you can see, you can access the website like this. You can just go to the exact section that you may need for the law and review it. And you can also view the website according to what we call the point in time. It's this tab over here. This point in time feature is like a time machine. So if you want to view the act as of, let's say your breach or something you're looking for happened in 2014, you'll come and click on this link right here. It will show you the act as of 2014, because you know the law only applies as, it does not act retroactively. Yeah? So that means it only acts forward. That only acts according to the time in which the breach happened. So you can, you have the point in time that allows you to view the act as at the time it was amended. So for example, if I click, this is the act as of July 12th, 2012, and so on and so forth. The various dates are here. So this is the laws of Kenya side. And if you want to download the act, you just come here on the PDF side. If you click on that, it will automatically download. As you can see, it will automatically download the current feature, whichever the version of the website that you've put. But let's download the most latest one, download, and there you have it. So that's the laws of Kenya side. We just showed you there are other features as well. When you click on the laws of Kenya tab as well, there are things on the left here. There's a tab here called other resources. This tab allows you to access a few things. The first one is recent legislation. This is legislation that has been passed in the past 3 months. It's updated currently. So this is for all the lawyers, all the people who are just interested in legal information to know what is the current legislation. You can also subscribe to a newsletter on that, and I'll show you how. The East Africa Community Treaties and all legislation from the EAC. If you click on that tab, you can be able to access it. Let me just show you. That's the EAC tab. It's loading slowly, but once you click on that, you get all of the legislation from the EAC. We have the treaties that Kenya has entered into. If you click on that, you'll get. At this point, I should let you know that sometimes you may look at the website and you may think that, or you may see that a treaty that you're looking for is not there. If you have a copy of it, or if you know of any treaty that is there that we have not featured, it's always best to just email us, and we'll do our best to add it. That is if we receive it from the various sources, the various ministries. If they share it with us, we will publish it. So as it loads, that's where you can access treaties. I'll show you once it finishes loading. We also have builds. So we have a build tracking tool that allows you to view builds. I don't know why it's loading so slowly. My internet is fine. But we have a build tracking tool. Most of those features just resemble this table right here. For the build tracking tool, it will have, let's try to access it from here. Here it is, the builds are ready. So the build tracking tool is here. As you can see, you have the various Senate bills listed over here. You have a bill tracker 2012, the legislative process, just the whole features are here. Now, the only danger with the bill tracking tool is once we post a bill up, it's as of the time that it was presented in Parliament. So if they make any changes in first read or second read or third read, they don't send it to us afterwards. They go through the entire process, then they send to us. If we come to this bill, is as of the time it was presented by the sponsor. So that we're trying to see how we can work with Parliament so that if changes in first read or second read are implemented, we can also implement them in the various bills. But just as a caveat, when you're accessing the bill, just know that is a bill as it is as the time it was presented by the sponsor. We also have a repealed statute. So this section of this tab of the website shows you, or the laws of Kenya side of the website, shows you the statutes that have been repealed. They are very important because I remember we had these instances where people are being charged by police or being presented to court with either sections of the law that have been declared unconstitutional by the courts or by a repealed statute. So it's a good place to always refer to them. So this place that I've clicked right here is section of the law that have been declared to be unconstitutional. So if you have any doubt if a section of the law is still applicable, just come and click on that section. So this is the page that we'll get. Provisions of the law declared unconstitutional, and they are listed there. And if you click on either of them, it will show you the case that did it. So for example, this is on the Children's Act. I think for creatives, maybe I can show you one on the penal code that declared criminal defamation to be unconstitutional. Trying to show an example. I think this is the case. So this is a case that shows you, this is the election law, sorry. Practice, penal code. No, it's not. Yeah, so I think this is the case that declared a criminal defamation to be unconstitutional. It's a really good case. In terms of freedom of expression. If you have some time, you can go on that side of the website and you can just review it and you can go to the main case. So that's the laws of Kenya tab. Let me quickly run through the other sides of the website. Let's go to the case side of the website. This is for everybody who is involved in, if you're involved in reading jurisprudence, or if you're interested in reading case law. We have a search tool that allows you to access all of the cases from the High Court, Court of Appeal, and Supreme Court. So the first one is just a normal Google search where you can type in whatever general search area you're looking for. It's not specific. So you can, let's say you're just looking for copyright cases. If you click on search, you will get cases that have feature on the Copyright Act or anything on copyright. You'll find a list of very many cases. As you can see, we have about 25,800 results. So this is not a very good tool to narrow down what you're looking for. If you want to narrow down what you're looking for, we have the advanced search tool. So in this advanced search tool, it allows you to do many things. If you have information on who was the judge who decided the case, you can come and add that. If you have information on the court, you can come and add the various court that you're looking for. If you have the case number, you can come and add it. If you have the case content, what the case might have featured about, you can come and add it. And you can also have the date of delivery, so the range. So for example, you can come and choose the date. Normally, if you click on this tab, it gives you a calendar. Let's just do a search first and then go back. Yeah, so normally if you click, so as you can see, there's a calendar. So if you click, it usually gives you a calendar. I don't know why it's doing this. So for example, we've done from 26th October to 30th October. If you do that, it will show you the cases that have been delivered in this time. It's too early for that, but they will be sent to us soon, but there are cases on that. So that's how you use the advanced search tool. I can give you an example. So the main question we get is what's the difference between case content and case subject? So case subjects here, it's cases that we find to be reportable. By reportable, it means it's cases that we've worked on and that we have reported. We've created a case summary. So for example, if you want the jurisprudential, the best cases on copyright, you just come here on the subject section and you search. Once you do that, you'll get all the cases that would have case summaries on copyright. As you can see, this is a case summary. This is also May 2020. Originality of the purpose of establishing copyright requires the author's own intellectual creation. That's one case. As you can see, there are very many cases that have been reported. You can see the number right here at the top. We have 1 to 10 of 31 cases that have been reported on copyright law. So as you can see, there are very many. And it doesn't matter what topic you have. You can just come and also search freedom of expression. If you use the subject tool, it will just present you with the reported cases. That is the ones with case summaries. That is the best of the best in our opinion. Now, as you can see again, freedom of expression, we have 62 cases that have been featured. So let's move to the Kenya Gazette side of the website. Oh wait, I forgot something in the case search. If you want to search cases from outside our jurisdiction, we have this link, worldly.org. If you click on that, it will redirect you to our website that features cases from the World Legal Information Institute. So you can just search cases from this point of view. So this is if you want to feature cases from across the world, that's the link you use. Now back to the Kenya Gazette. Usually around this time, Monday is a public holiday. So when it comes to this time, when it's a day or two before public holiday, our phone calls are usually in our office. Our phone lines go crazy because everybody's just waiting for that notice to be told it's a public holiday. If you ever need to look for one, this is how you look for them. So this is the Kenya Gazette archive. So if you click on the online archive right here, you will see an archive of the various Kenya Gazettes that we've managed to scan and publish online. It might be taking time. It's time. Let me open this. Sorry, the loading times they might take some time, but we can be patient. Meanwhile, as the Kenya Gazette side loads, I can also show you the legal notices. So. Oh, it's opening a new tab. So basically, as it loads, I don't know what's the problem there. You can access them from that point of the website. Maybe if I can go back to my presentation, I had something in that as it loads. I have something on the Kenya Gazette side. I have some slides on that as a backup. So these are the Kenya Gazette archives. Once you click on that tab of the website, let me just present it. Oh, sorry. Yes, so from the Kenya Gazette archives, this is what you get. So if you click on the year, they'll show the various Kenya Gazette issues from the various years. And you can, if you just click on either of them, you'll get a PDF version of it. If you come on this side, is the Kenya Gazette archive search. If you can come and search to all of, as you can see below here, 1895 to 2010, all of the scanned Kenya Gazettes are online. You also have a working relationship with Google. If you can't find anything here, Google Books usually has an archive of Kenya Gazettes that are also available. Legal notices, if you click on the legal notices side, as you can see, they're all arranged by year. Just follow this side, this tab. They're arranged by year. So if you click on the year, it will show you the various legal notices and the various acts that they've been issued. So for example, this one is, what is being highlighted is the legal notice that was issued in January 2019. Legal notices 1 to 6, and here they are. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the various acts that they've amended. That's how you access the legal notice side of the acts. If you click on amended acts, it will show you the various acts that have been amended in the years. And this is, at the time I was making these slides, it was 2019, so this is how it will look. For bills, this is how the bill tracker looks, like I told you. Yeah, so that's pretty much our presentation on the Kenya Law website. If you have any questions, I'm willing to take them up at this point. And yeah, that's about it from the Kenya Law side of things. Also remember to, oh, I forgot one thing. Let me just share the screen on how you can access the newsletter. Let me go to the website again. So we usually have our own publications. And our most common publication is the newsletter. So if you ever go to our newsletter archives, it will show you how to access the various newsletters that we've published over the years. Seems like we have a loading problem on the website, so we'll contact ICT. It's not behaving at the worst time, but hey, I think we're almost there. There we go. So if you just go to this side of the website, you can just put your name and your email address, and you'll receive our weekly newsletter. So from which you'll receive two. We have case updates, that is the jurisprudential cases that feature on a weekly basis. And on occasion, you'll be getting updates on the laws of Kenya, what has changed in the laws of Kenya. We'll be accessing it on your email. Just put your name and your email address, and we'll be sending to you weekly. And also, you can also remember to share, to follow our social media pages. Let me just show you for more information. That's it right here. It's My Kenya Law on Facebook, My Kenya Law on Twitter, and My Kenya Law on YouTube. So thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to present. And Professor and the rest of the team, it was an honor. And I'm willing to take up your questions at this point.
Thank you very much, John, really, for really taking us through a very interesting presentation. In a very, yes.
May, our Deputy CEO wishes to say something. Sorry,
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, Professor. How are you?
Fine, very fine. It's nice to see you, Janet. Please welcome and say a few words.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor. And thank you, Ribia. I'm joined by two other members of staff. We have Wambui Kamau. Wambui Kamau is the team leader for Laws of Kenya. She is in charge of the Laws of Kenya department. And Andrew, who introduced himself in the beginning, is a team leader for research, development and innovation. And of course with Ribia, who works in the law reporting department. We are very, very happy, Professor, for inviting us to participate and share on what we do during this important commemoration on the Universal Access to Information week or day. So thank you so much. On behalf of the council, I wish just to say something small before, something brief before we can open it up. Is that we have the council who is at the apex, led by our chair, the Honorable the Chief Justice. There are 11 of them. And of course, within the Secretariat, we are 72 of us. In terms of our mandate, as Ribia had mentioned, we have 3 mandates. One is on the law reporting, the other one is on law revision, and then the other one, the third one, is where now we interact, the external facing mandate, where we are supposed to interact and share about our work, do research on emerging jurisprudence or areas of law, conduct specialized publications in emerging areas of the law. And therefore, our participation also in this process is interesting, because then we begin to interact in this creative space and understand the needs of the sector, and see how is it that we can at least endeavor to ensure that even as we publish public legal information, then we are targeting the needs as they emerge. So ideally, as a definition of how we look at public legal information, it's defined in 2 ways. So we have the primary sources, which are mainly the laws, treaties. We have the secondary side of things, where we have commission reports, for example, parliament reports, documents from different government agencies, ministries, departments, where we collectively every year endeavor to build a portfolio, an online portfolio of how, of all the information that should be freely accessible to the public. So in that sense, we do that every year, reach out to public agencies, because our mandate is about ensuring that this public legal information is freely accessible. And really Kenya is quite unique, because we have the government that supports that public access of this information. Ideally, we will not publish anything that is not gazetted, because that is the constitution. So even as Ribia mentioned, that if you find you're not getting any information that you're looking for, alert us, and we'll be able to check within our archives to see if it is there. And if not, then share with us a copy, and we'll be able to confirm whether that copy is authenticated enough to be published within the website. So as the Kenya Law team, we are also guided by various international international declarations, for example, the Montreal Declaration. And this is a declaration of 2002, which endeavors that legal information institutes like ourselves ascribe that we will share information via the internet and for free to the public. And therefore, in that sense, we are careful to ensure that we ascribe to our constitution in terms of ensuring that legal information is actually part of our cultural heritage and should be actually shared with the public for their access. So that guides us very, very well. So we, as part of the free access to law movement, we are bound to do that. On the other side of things, based on the demands that have been coming, and we have just witnessed that in terms of access to the website, and post the corona period, we've witnessed a lot of surge within our website. So for example, when we had the BBI decision, the website almost crashed because everyone was trying to get onto the website to download. It's a very voluminous decision of more than 1,000 pages. And so what we are doing increasingly is trying to assess these needs and see how is it that we can expand this website. The website contains 55,000 gigabytes of information, and this includes the entire set of the laws of Kenya, which are 504, including more than 10,000 regulations which accompany those statutes or laws. It also contains other public information, legal information within the East Africa region. We have treaties. We also do have jurisprudence from not only Kenya, but also the entire Commonwealth and other places beyond that. So as we continuously engage with our consumers, we are checking that we meet their needs. And every 2 years, we do the customer satisfaction survey. We would encourage all of us to subscribe, as Ribia has shown us, and also subscribe to our social media our platforms where you can get access to this information. In terms of meeting the needs of this sector, help us, give us ideas of how to do that. We are already beginning to see how is it that in our next strategic plan, the current one ends in 2022, how is it that we can publish through specialized areas of the law? So for instance, we've heard from the trade sector that they would like to see out of the 504 statutes that we have, how many speak to trade and industry, and how many of those laws then have what we call the non-tariff measures or non-tariff barriers. So that's already an emerging area that we are looking keenly. We've begun doing that internally. Devolution is also another emerging area. Perhaps there are other emerging areas within the creative industry that you'd love us to look at, and we can help so that then when it comes to ease of navigation in the website, then information can be easily and freely accessible in whichever areas of law that the members of public would like to see. It is also very friendly. You can expand the font sizes. It is friendly to persons with disability. And increasingly, we want to see that in terms of how to navigate that. So Ribia has shown us that we can download using PDFs. I would also like to assess other forms of downloads to see that in whichever area that a user requires support, then this is possible. Of course, even as we look forward to expanding that access and that reach, we cannot work alone, and therefore we would love to engage further, continue engaging further to see how is it that we can increasingly meet the needs in this sector. Thank you very much, Professor. I think those are just a few of what I can say right now. Thank you for allowing us to be part of this process, and we look forward to more engagements as we go forward. Asante.
Thank you very much, Janet, for that. And really, I'm personally very happy that you're doing all you can to increase accessibility for persons with disability, because I know that that was an issue that was raised in the 1990s on how the Kenya law can make information more accessible to people with disability. So I just want to open up for questions, comments, reactions from our colleagues. Colleagues, you can raise your hand, you have a comment. And also just to reassure all of you that although we have learned about Kenya, we are also interested in the situation in Uganda and Tanzania. And going forward, I think that Churchill will facilitate a conversation with our colleagues from those two countries as we build the East African community, solidarities. So it's just focused on Kenya for today, not because of anything. It's just that we have to start somewhere. So we started in Kenya, but we should be able to move to other countries in the next few months. Comments, reactions, colleagues?
I would say from the Ugandan perspective, I know that Kenya law is definitely focused on Kenya, but Janet did talk about East African trade agreements and things like that also being available on the website. So I'll definitely check it out from there. I guess my question is, how far back do the archives stretch in terms of time, especially because some of the stuff I'm looking at is pre-independence. Thank you so much for the detailed explanation today.
Janet, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair, Professor and Nikisi, for the question. Allow me to invite Wambui, who can give us a response. Wambui, karibu. Rebia, do you want to go first?
I just want to ask what archives? We have various archives. We have an archives of legal notices of Kenya Gazette. Maybe if you could specify which archive, and then I can tell you how far back we go.
Sure. So, and I heard some of the kinds of archive that you detailed, which was fantastic. I'm mostly interested in trade agreements, regional and international, and I'm wondering how far back they stretch.
Yeah.
If not, it still sounds like a really interesting topic.
You can continue the meeting. I'll just look online and I'll tell you just now. Give me 5 minutes. Let me just check it right now and I'll let you know.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
That's good. Any other question, comment, reaction?
Yeah, from me here. I had a similar question to Nikisi's, just to know how far back they go, and I think that will be addressed partly. But then the other thing, I don't know if you covered this in your presentation, but the different types of information that Kenya law has, you could have passed through it. I could have missed it beyond case law, the treaties, and all of that. Because ROOM also has another process, a research process going on the sorts of archives that government and private institutions have. So I see this as a good opportunity to also know the diverse range of archives that your institution has. I don't know if that was covered in your presentation, especially in the beginning parts.
So on the type of information that we have, it's mostly, our mandate is to publish public legal information. Yeah. So we have case law, laws of Kenya. We have county legislation, but the challenge with county legislation is our act has not yet been amended, or the legal notice has not yet been amended to include county legislation. Currently, it's a national legislation. So we have a situation where counties send their legislation whenever they feel like. So if they send them to us, we have them online. We have treaties, we have trade agreements, or we were working towards getting most of them in. We have cases from tribunals. We have, what else is it there? Causeless. We have commission reports and various reports from the National Assembly. And we also have a newsletter and something called a bench bulletin. It's a publication that we publish once every quarter and we send a physical copy to all of the judicial officers in Kenya, but the soft copy is usually posted on our website. We also have cause lists, the Kenya Gazette, and the legal notices. I think that's about it. That's the type of information that we have. But our mandate is specifically restricted to public legal information. So if it's legal information that you're after, it's most likely on our website.
Yes, thank you so much, John, for that answer. And it is to say, and thank you very much, Ongere, for your question. In as much as our website has not been, our statute, we are still looking at it. It was enacted in 1994. That was before the Constitution, which came in with an expanded governance structure in terms of how government works. So we have the county, so the devolved structure of government. We also do have an expanded judiciary. Indeed, tribunals now are part of the judiciary. So what we have been doing increasingly is to still continue with that publication of ensuring that we publish the entire set of the laws of Kenya, whether they are at the national level or the government or at the county level. So even as we continue to conduct mop-up exercises within the counties, we endeavor to publish county laws as we receive them. When we receive them, we're trying as much as possible to also ensure that within the County Government Act, which is where counties, MCAs, the county assemblies should be able to come up with laws, enact laws that whatever they have and whatever they send for printing to the government printer, that we get copies which we can then upload within our website. So that has been the challenge. Our act is quite old. We have new emerging areas of the law that are coming that enable us or give us a mandate to ensure that we publish all this information, together with also now just trying to see how is it that we can stretch the website to be able to capture all these emerging areas of the law. So usually even the way the laws of Kenya is published, the case such is published, Parliament, resources are published. We try as much as possible to cluster them, all of them, the information that we get to fall under those different tabs, so that then whenever we expand it to the website, expand it to be able to capture all those specifics in terms of the information, then we can progressively realize that. So right now, if there's information that you search and you don't find it, then we'd like to know how, where, and continue to upload this. Indeed, within our strategic plan, what we are mandated to do is to ensure that we have a rich online repository of public legal information, not only in Kenya, but also across the world, that then can relate and link to our own situation. So anything that, a new emerging area that we have here, for instance, a Huduma number, issues, we will do a research on what is happening in other jurisdictions and try to capture those decisions, publish them so that then they can inform policymakers even as they go ahead to conduct this kind of initiatives. Yes, so in terms of, the different types of information, that ideally is what we are working with now, but it is a website that is evolving, that is growing, and we are capturing diverse user needs to see that then it relates to and speaks to them in terms of the information that they're searching for.
Thanks, Janet. Just a quick one before we wrap up. So you said that you could do special areas, kind of public interest areas. For instance, Taweza Communications chairs the Creative Economy Working Group, and we enjoined ourselves as a Creative Economy Working Group to a matter related to the banning of the Rafiki film, and we appealed against the banning of the film by Kenya Film Commission, and the matter went to the Constitutional Human Rights Court, and a judgment was made. So matters related to arts in Kenya generally, or media, or all matters that could come out under Article 11 of the Constitution, or Article 7 of the Constitution, or other matters that could go to, mainly those ones are cultural and artistic. But of course, there are other sections of the Constitution that are of interest to us, including media. So if, for example, we say that as a sector, the creative sector operates under arts, culture, and media, and we are interested in having a home where we can rush and quickly see those decisions made around those issues. Personally, I'm, for example, interested in knowing how many books have been banned over the last so many years, how many films have been banned, what decisions have courts made with regard to, copyright from the sector and so on. So in terms of process, if we were interested in pursuing this further with you, what would we need to do as a sector?
Thank you very much, Professor. It's quite an interesting area, even as we continue to have this conversation. So in terms of how to do it, is would love to understand or know what areas or what are the areas in terms of need that the creatives have and would love that to be published. So you mentioned, for instance, case law touching on that, you know, numbers, how many cases we have, and that also can be linked to the statutes, the laws of Kenya as well, because I mean, during decisions or in judgments, you'll find sometimes some of these statutes may be proposed or, you know, recommended for amendment and so on. So in terms of the needs that the sector wants published, that would be important. Of course, we like to have a conversation also around it because there could be other emerging areas that may not, the sector may not be looking at. For example, where we have increasingly found that sometimes when it comes to the publication of this public legal information, there are other regulators that have a mandate to ensure that they also commission that publishing. So for instance, you could be having, let me take an example, a wild example within the trade industry. So we have different regulators like customs, you know, KRA and so many others that have a mandate to regulate in terms of what kind of policies or laws come and are presented to the public. And you find that information increasingly is being reviewed, being revised. So you find anyone interacting in that space may not at any one time have a firm confirmation that in terms of the licenses that they are supposed to get. So they could be revised and reviewed based on government needs and, you know, policies that come or are, you know, they're enacted every day. So when it comes to that, even as we publish, we are careful to ensure that also the regulator confirms that what we are publishing is actually what they have commissioned as the correct information. So, and there could also be other ways in which that information, in terms of how it is projected. We have increasingly come to understand that the way we publish our laws in Kenya is a bit difficult, a bit different, and a bit difficult for a user to be able to understand. So for example, we are just in the process currently undertaking a project with UNCTAD, United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, and their interest is on trade. So what we have been able to do is realize that out of the 504 laws, we have about 47 statutes that touch on this area. Out of those 47 statutes, we have 93 non-tariff barriers or measures in those. So you can imagine how the voluminous nature of those non-tariff measures. And when you read the law, you will not pick them. So the law is not as, the way it is drafted is not easy to understand even from a player within that sector. So what we have proposed is that we will tag these laws and have something that hovers on a particular provision to say, this is a non-tariff measure, or this is a license that you need to get, or this is, so that then the law is, becomes, it can speak to the user as opposed to it being black and white right now. What we projected within our website is really just a composition of the laws. When you click, yes, you will get to read all the provisions, but is the law speaking back to you? Are you able to identify barriers? So in terms of the creatives, again, using the same process, we meet, identify these areas, emerging areas of need. What is it that the sector feels need to be published more? What is it that they are struggling with in terms of the laws, the decisions, the statutes? Maybe you know, research is difficult, or you know. So we identify that, and then internally we'll be able to source to see how is it that then what would be the best way of publishing this, and together then you can give us that feedback on whether that's really what. You know, the intention, or you know, at the end of the day, is that what you know is needed. So I believe just a little more conversation on it, Professor, and these emerging areas, and then together we can see, you know, how do we publish this. for purposes of that publication.
Thank you very much, Janet. And I'm sure that this is something that Churchill and the team and within Room might be interested in following up going forward. I think that John is back. If John, you can respond very, very briefly, because I know people are rushing to other meetings.
Okay, the question I'm answering is regarding the archives and how far back they go. So I checked the agreements and treaties. The treaties just feature all the treaties that Kenya is in. As for the trade agreements, we can't guarantee that we have every single trade agreement. Like Janet mentioned, we are working with other institutions to include them. But I've seen the oldest one dates back to 1950. For the news Kenya Gazette archive, it dates back to 2005. However, there's a link there from Google Books. If you click it, it will give you access to Kenya Gazette all the way back to 1890. And the good thing about Kenya Gazette is every legislation has to be published through there. So if you're looking for legacy information that you may need for your research, the Kenya Gazette will feature everything, including what you're looking for, Professor, on the books that have been banned. The Kenya Gazette will be a good tool. For example, you can just search for the Kenya Gazette banning a certain book. You'll find everything there. So the Kenya Gazette will be a nice back door to find those archives. And I remember even in the old constitution, we had to assent the treaties into our law first before we could apply. Yeah? So Kenya Gazette also did the same thing. So in as much as we might not have the full list on the website, the Kenya Gazette features up to all the way back to 1890, so it can give you all of that information.
Thank you very much, John. Colleagues at the Kenya Law, I really want to thank you very much for a fantastic, interaction on access to information. As I said, this is part of, a series of meetings on access to information. And this is the third meeting. I hope that it's been useful to all of us. I would like now to invite Churchill to close the meeting for us. Just want to thank everybody, and Churchill, if you can take it.
Yeah, thanks, Prof. Really nothing much to say, just other than thanking colleagues for making time to share this with us. I mentioned earlier on that Room is really invested in this question of archives and how to make them more accessible to creatives, especially archives that are most of the times not appreciated as content rich for people who want to make creative output, such as the archive that Kenya Law has. For the room people, I think you can appreciate that the discussion we've had here today is just a beginning of a whole other area that you need to look into, even as you make your work, because the intention is not just to make work, but to also make work that references the lived realities of people in our societies. So just to thank you all for making time for this, and I'm sure we'll be meeting in other engagements on access to information and the creative sector. But just to also, most importantly, thank colleagues from Kenya Law, especially from the highest levels, for making time to engage this constituency, the constituency of the creatives that most of the times not many people from government make time for, and to also share the information with detail as much as you have. Thank you, and wishing you guys all the best, and have a good weekend.